Okay, it's 11 a.m. on this rainy day here in southwestern Maine. I hope everybody else is having a wonderful day out there. We're going to welcome you to the Map Business Online live webinar, another live webinar, and we're going to talk about accessing the power of drive time analysis. I'm going to give you sort of a little introduction in terms of why we're doing this. MapBusiness Online Pro, as opposed to MapBusiness Online Standard, is built largely around the ability to conduct driving time and distance calculations in support of various business analysis processes. And one of the things I want to answer for you today is, why would your company or business or organization require drive time analysis? Drive time and distance calculations are a feature in Standard as well. They're in the MapBusiness Online Standard tool, but those calculations are one calculation at a time from one point out a specified time or distance. And so I want to show you, just using this slide here. We're going to go back and forth between the PowerPoint presentation and the MapBusiness Online a little bit. I've tried to minimize that, but because of the nature of drive time calculations across multiple center points, which is what Pro gives you, it takes a lot of power and a little bit of time. And so for a webinar, I can't sit around and wait 5 minutes for the thing to process. So in that case, I've done it in the slides. But this slide is of MapBusiness Online Standard. And so if you have MapBusiness Online Standard and you want to conduct a drive time calculation, you could go up here to the search tools, and in the drop down, pull up the drive time area polygon, drop that manually on the map with your mouse. Up comes this drive time dialog, and you can go in and decide whether you're going to calculate it in time or in distance. And in this case, I've set 30 minutes. You could actually put in the time of day and the day of week to include a level of traffic in your drive time analysis. And then you click Add it to the map. If you put an address in up here in the corner up here, you could then work with the little mini toolbar here. Again, click drive time area. That same drive time dialog comes up, and you're able to process that on the map in the exact same way. And the result is this drive time polygon, this squiggly line that represents your driving time experience in all directions at once. And so it's giving you how far you're going to be able to travel along the road network, these various road networks, in sort of a spider web polygon. And that is your drive time polygon. And you are able to then query that polygon for zip codes, for demographic data, for geographic information, for data that you might have imported into MapBusiness Online. So it's a really convenient tool for researching data and using MapBusiness Online Standard to do that, one point at a time. And that's the difference, because MapBusiness Online Pro does multiple points at once, and that increases the power exponentially. So it does provide you features beyond the MapBusiness Online Standard Edition. So drive time analysis, you can import up to 250,000 location points per map. Standard is lower than that. You're talking 50,000 points per map in the Standard Edition. And you've got the ability to search and segment data across multiple centers. So that's applying a proximity search in bulk across multiple points on the map. We're going to walk through that. That tool also lets us create multiple territories by drive time at the same time. That's a powerful tool. Batch calculate distances is more of a network analysis, and we're going to go through that. We're going to do a find the nearest locations proximity search across multiple points. And then you can aggregate data from another data set into a data set you've imported. So you can mix up data sets using MapBusiness Online, and you can summarize demographic and geographic information into data sets that you import. Please note that when we talk about drive time, it simply means specified times along the road network. Driving distances use the same tool, but specify a certain distance along the road network. I'll use the term drive time interchangeably to address both driving time and distance calculations in general, but I just want you to understand that you can calculate driving time, you can calculate driving distance, you could also calculate straight distances. So the tool allows you to do that. All right, so it's kind of hard to discuss driving time and distance queries. It's complicated. Spell checkers don't like the terms. The way people search for us through Google, we're learning about how they find us. Proximity search is one way you can search in Google, drive time search. But for those Map Business Online customers who found Map Business Online Pro, they get it. They understand they have a need for drive time analysis. It meets their requirements, and they're happy to pay a little more than for standard for the incredible tools it offers. That same level of functionality from another supplier can cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And so that's where the sort of leverage is for your company to consider Map Business Online Pro. So why would you require drive time analysis in your work? So I'm going to just list some of the various industries that are using Map Business Online Pro, and we'll talk a little bit about why. So banks, loan agencies, finance companies, and insurance companies do demographic analysis using drive time in support of financial concerns like risk assessment, expansion planning, and just general market analysis. So in the finance world, drive time can hold some weight. For managing and measuring efficiencies and expenses in support of transportation and fleet organizations. So if you've got a fleet of vehicles out there and you're managing all these trucks all over the place. We've had actually this week a couple of different companies come in that were managing a variety of big trucks, fire trucks, buses, and they need to be able to manage some of these efficiencies and expenses out there and track things. Market analysis and growth planning for retailers, restaurants, and other business to consumer businesses. The key question would be, what is your customer's drive time tolerance? How far is your customer willing to drive to buy your products or get your services? That's a key sort of piece of information you want to think about, and think about it in terms of drive time and driving distance analysis. Field staffs with people in the field managing and measuring sales coverages, franchise territories, and field tech assignments. All of those can use drive time functionality. Construction companies managing multiple sites, deliveries, inspections, and progress are all measured at various times and compared. Medical systems undergoing business expansion require intense business analysis. Where are all the ophthalmologists? How far away are they from our major customer points? Where are all the various medical systems that add up to an entire hospital system around a city? So as a medical system expands like that, they've got to understand all of that about the relationship between patients, how far they're willing to drive, and where all the services are. Multiple location resource planning, warehousing, supply chain, government facilities. If you've got multiple buildings, you've got people moving all over the place, you've got deliveries you're worried about, and those are things that need to be measured and monitored. This is why companies come to us for drive time analysis. So I also wanted to mention I've got a little puppy. She's asleep on the couch right now. So sometimes she wakes up around now and starts to get a little fussy, and she can't go out. So I may have to give her a timeout, but just be aware that that could happen. So we're going to go back and forth between slides and drive time and using the actual tool itself. So to access Pro, Map Business Online Pro, drive time features, you use the analysis button. And that's this button on the toolbar right up here. This is the first function that we will work on, is search and segment data from multiple centers, but we're also going to look at batch calculate, find the nearest, and then there's three of them here that are all summarizing or enriching data that you've imported into Map Business Online. So in Map Business Online, when you want to access it, you click analysis, it brings up this list of functions, and we would start with this search and segment data from multiple centers. I've got a a data set of Hannaford's grocery stores in New England that I've imported. I actually got that information from our business listings. So I wanted a good data set with about 300 to 500 records. And I found the Hannaford stores on our business listings. They cost 15 cents each. It's a real convenient way to get information located on a map that you can then work with in MapBusiness Online. Search and segment data from multiple locations. So we are going to import or use, actually, we could plot it right from here. So if you've got a data set on your desktop, you can click the plot button, go get it. I've already got Hannaford stores in my map. And so I just select it here. There's a drop down that would give you an option of all the data sets. I'm going to choose from my list of options, which is drive time, straight time, and distance time, to use drive time. I am not going to worry about the time of day and the day of the week, but I could check that box, and then again, traffic would be considered. So for commute times, morning and evening, obviously your drive times are going to be a little bit more. Then you can set a radius search around each location. It's really a drive time search. And in this case, I chose 30 minutes. You could choose any, from 1 up to, I think it's 480 minutes, maybe more than that now. And then down below here, you have the option to check this box if you want to draw a polygon around each of the points in your multiple data sets. So each of my Hannaford stores would have a polygon drawn around them. There's a limit to that. The upper limit is 200. So if you're going to do more than 200, you need to split up your data set. I'm not going to check that at this point, but that's there for you if you want to do that. So select the data, choose the straight distance, drive time, or driving distance, specify driving time and distance, and then, if desired, include a polygon. The first screen that comes up gives you the status of your routing credits. So I've got a whole bunch there. I'm going to use up 153, and it's just letting you know that this is the number of credits estimated to be required. It's 153. Those credits cost 10 cents a piece. They do go down with volume purchases. You can get them through your account button. Just click subscription and you can buy more. A certain amount come with each subscription. So you're good to start with anyway. The next screen that comes up is the search data screen. So around each of my Hannaford stores, I'm going to have a 30-minute drive time, and I'm going to search for New England breweries. That's the data set I've chosen to query. And that's going to give me a return that we'll look at in just a second. But that's the process. So now you've put drive time queries around each store, and you're looking within those areas for data. And I've chosen breweries. You could have chosen zip codes or some other data set that you've imported already. So the result for search and segment data, the first option in the analysis button, is a bulk list of all the breweries that are within 30 minutes of all the Hannaford stores. So it's a proximity search in bulk. And that might be, I've written, I think, a couple of reasons why people might use that. So results, a list of breweries within 30 minutes around each store. You can export it using that export button right here. Export it out as a CSV file, work with it outside of the application. Hannaford might use this list to determine supply options. So they're looking at all of their breweries, or they might be looking at all of their ice cream suppliers. Whatever it is, they've done a bulk search to get all those suppliers, and then maybe they're going to go rank them or do something with that information. The brewery suppliers might use the exact same list to analyze competition. They might just do it to configure all their customer base and think about, other customers that might be reachable within a reasonable distance outside of that drive time. Who knows? But that's what this process, the first list, the first item in that analysis button does for you. Now, I mentioned that you can also do a search and segment territory build, which is a really neat feature. So in that case, when you get to the search data dialog, that's the one where I chose the New England breweries for all the Hannaford stores. Instead of choosing that, I could have chosen zip codes, clicked that create multiple territories button, put a little bit of text in there just to identify what I'm talking about, and then, oops, I I went too fast there. And then that would create a set of territories around each Hannaford store. So each Hannaford store would then have a territory made up of zip codes based on drive time. Powerful. And I just want to make a note of a couple of tips here when you're doing these calculations. If you've got a list of Hannaford stores and a list of breweries, or a list of hospitals and a list of patients, all of these data sets that you're going to be going out and analyzing using drive time analysis and Map Business Online, try and keep the total search quotient, all of those points back and forth, should not total up to more than 1 million records. So if you got 1,000 grocery stores and 1,000 breweries, that's 1 million records. So if it's going to be a lot more than that, you're going to want to take your data set and split it up. We're just not processing mega data sets here. We're talking sort of in the middle range. If you really have, millions upon millions of data sets that you want to do drive time queries on, think about ESRI or some other large GIS supplier that might be able to help you. And the other tip that I wanted to make is regard to territories. If you do build territories and you invest all that time in creating a big data set of territories, especially if it's nationwide or regional, save it as my template as opposed to a my map folder, so it's protected. So when you go to the save dialog, you'll see there's two options: my map or my template. And I recommend you use my template to protect your territories. Little tip. So the next button, we're going to go back up to the analysis button here and see the list of options. And we've got this batch calculate option down here. That provides, I've got a little sensitive mouse here. That provides a distance or time measurement between all points in a data set or all points across two data sets. So I'm going to just show you an example data set. So this is an Excel spreadsheet where I've got a set of addresses over here that are associated with these people. I'm considering those my origin points. Then I've got another set of data sets, another data set here that's a group of dealers. And I'm considering those addresses to be my destination. So I've imported that data set without this little heading on the top. We don't like that extra heading for imports, but I've got it in Map Business Online already. And I'm going to go back to the current slide and change my setting here. And so we're going to do batch calculate of that data. So I click to show you the next sort of slide. So in Map Business Online, my data window shows me that test pairs data imported into Map Business Online. So there's my list of people with their addresses, origin points, and here's my destinations over here. Batch calculate all distances and times between points and two data sets. Transportation, who would use that? So when I process that batch calculate, it would be utilized. You can see this is the result here. I get distances in miles across those multiple data sets. So you'd use these in a transportation network, expense planning and verification, field staff management. And I am going to just go previous. And then I'm going to go back to Map Business Online here. And we are going to just take a look at that batch process manually. Batch calculate distances and times. I would go, in this case, I can do like a driving distance and time combination. There's my data set. So here's all the other data I've got in Map Business Online. I could plot it from here if I wanted to. I can put a little bit of text in here just to say, this is batch. My name is to identify things. Click next. And Map Business Online runs that analysis across my dealer and my origins and my destination point. It's just giving you an opportunity to double check your addressing here. Click next. It gives you the routing credits update, and then you can start that processing. Because I've only got 12 records, even though it's all the way across the country, I thought it was a reasonable time period for processing this. to do it in the web demo. So there you have the results. You can see over here, you've got driving distance now and driving time added to that data set. Great. Now, there's another function that I've got in my PowerPoint. In this next slide here, I'm just going to go to it quickly. Where is it? So there's another way MapBusinessOnline Pro users can run batch calculate queries from a point. And for that, we'll go back to the map. So let's imagine we've got our test pairs again here on MapBusinessOnline. And we want to, instead of looking at all of the distances between all the records, origin and destination, we've got an outside point that we want to analyze. Let's use this Albany point that I did earlier for the standard drive time function. If I select that point, you'll see, and any point on this map, same thing. Little menu comes up, and it's got this button here called Distances and Times. And if I click that, I can do that same analysis, drive distance and time, and I can pick my data set. Again, I'll go test pairs again. And in this case, I'll just say Jeff. And so now we're looking at all the records from that data set back to this one point. Another way to do batch calculation and get a set of times and distances across one data set to one point. And again, companies that would use this, I think we're going to find me listed there. There's Jeff right there. So there's my miles and there's my distances. So you can see it's different than the other one. So that gives you the ability to process data that you can then measure and monitor driving distances and times within a transportation network. So it's looking at where everybody's going for multiple delivery points. And you can think about on timeliness, you can think about costs, expenses, fuel costs, all of these various factors that impact the efficiency of your business. That's what batch calculate is all about. All right, so now I think we're going to be free flying with the application to the last slide in the PowerPoint presentation. Let me just look at my notes to make sure that I'm covering. I did the one address. So now we're going to go down to the analysis button, find the nearest. Again, find the nearest is a proximity search. And you have the option of drive time, drive distance, driving time, and straight time. So straight distance would be as the crow flies. So we'll just go drive distance. I'm going to pick my local breweries list. I've got that segmented here on the map behind me, so you can see all the breweries and Hannaford Brothers. And then the Hannaford stores I've already pre-selected here. And I believe I'm going to do a 15-minute. That's the 15-minute drive time, because that's what I've got in my notes. So you have the ability with a proximity search, find the nearest, to find the nearest, in this case, breweries to each Hannaford store. And you can choose up to 20 nearest objects. So from the data set, in this case, I might go, I want the nearest 2 breweries to each Hannaford store. And it depends upon, how you could, for instance, I could pick Hannaford store up here as a customer location for pickup stores at breweries and vice versa. So you may want to play with that a little bit to get a sense of how those breakdowns of customer location versus store, patients versus hospital, cars versus car repair shop. These are different, types of data that you'll have in your business. And you can put a little bit of code, a little bit of text in there that might identify you, identify your particular calculation in the columns. And again, it works that same way as the other options, and then it brings back a list that you can then export. So now you've got your driving times here, and you can see there's some. If you click at the top of the columns, it rearranges it so you can see where you've got things in a specific order. So based on drive time minutes, these are the minutes going down. Those negative numbers sometimes come up if data is inaccurate, or in this case, I think it's because I've got a segmented list that I'm using as opposed to the parent list. But you'll see, and you can filter using various filter buttons. You can filter that data window view, so you could pick, only certain breweries, breweries that contain certain letters in the name, or it's all typical modifiers with any database analysis tool. And you can add more filters. So I could look at, geography. I just want to see certain cities. I just want to see certain states. So it gives you the ability to manipulate that data even further and then export it out. So you're able to find, in proximity of those Hannaford Brothers stores, all the breweries that you need. In this case, store 1, Hannaford, store 2, Hannaford. It's a really convenient tool for going out and finding the nearest objects to your center points and doing it across all center points at once. And you can see in this case, we had 564 of the original data set of breweries. It's a lot of breweries around the world these days. Okay, so find the nearest. Then we're going to go back to our analysis button, and we're going to now go into summarizing or enriching data. So if you've imported data into MapBusiness Online, and I've got the breweries and I've got the Hannaford stores, so I could pick a data set with customer locations or a data set with store locations, and then I could decide to pull information from one data set down into another data set. And so let's go with Loretta's data here. And I could get sales totals and account, so the number of records, and I can adjust this, put my initials there, identify it in the column headings, and then choose what your drive time analysis is going to be. So you're only going to be pulling data that's within X amount of miles or minutes of a store. So that gives you the ability to limit the records that you're going to pull in based on drive time. That's where understanding your customer tolerance for driving time might be important for a retail store, because you could look at the average tolerance for that you think people are willing to drive, and then base a campaign on that and make sure you're only pulling in records that are within a reasonable amount of that drive time tolerance, and not wasting your marketing funds on people that live an hour and a half away. Makes sense? Similar way. So we could, in this case, take our brewery list, which is the New England brewery list, and add demographic information. So I'm just going to pick random stuff. We've already got population in there. Maybe it's travel time to work. Maybe it's household information. And so you, again, are going to be picking a distance, picking a time, whatever that makes the most sense for you. And in this case, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to pick 10 miles. Polygon around it again. And then that's going to add demographic data to the New England breweries data set based on the categories that you've got listed here. We've got listed here from our demographic data library, and it will add that to the imported data set. Now, when you've got that there and you want more, if you want to have an additional 6, an additional 10, you just go back and run that same data set again, and it will add columns in the same exact way. And the next operation I was going to go over was adding geographic data, which happens in exactly the same way. So you could add zip codes or counties to your data. And so when we get this up here, you can see travel time, households, drive time. And again, if you wanted more than just those 3, you just go back and do that analysis again. And we could also go down and enrich a data set, do the same thing. New England breweries, and in this case, we're selecting map layers and adding like zip codes or counties to the data set. And again, there's demographic data we could add to it there as well. And so again, you'll go through that same process, adding information to data. Now, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint slide, go all the way to the end here. And we want to just talk about why companies use drive time analysis in MapBusinessOnline Pro. So again, your company pays attention to driving time and distance calculations for operations. They can benefit from MapBusinessOnline Pro. Your business manages multiple retail stores, warehouses, or supply chains. They can take advantage of MapBusinessOnline Pro. Your business seeks to understand the demographic makeup of where it does business. Who am I surrounded by? What's the ethnicity? What's the consumer habits? What are the household income statistics? You generate market analysis in support of growing sales into new markets. This is a great tool for that. I've used it over and over again for different companies to analyze their growth based on where they do well now and where they want to go in the future. You plot more than 50,000 records per map. For whatever reason, you may want to consider MapBusinessOnline Pro. Your business conducts zip code to zip code time and distance analysis. So if you hear people talking about zip to zip analysis, that's what they mean. They're talking about distances, times between center points of zip codes to center points of zip codes. And that's largely due to cost of doing business, efficiencies, fuel costs, travel costs, all of those things. Your business manages large investments in multiple urban areas like banks, insurance, organized crime. Just kidding about the organized crime, making sure people are awake. But if you do manage large investments, this is a great tool. Manage regional and national sales and franchise organizations. Again, this is a great tool for anybody that has a concern with drive time tolerances of customers, salespeople, technicians on the road, all that stuff. So please send your feedback, and I'll look at the actual webinar tool and see if we've got any questions. You can chat over any questions. When pulling this data, does it have duplicates? I find I get a lot of them when I use this feature. So some of the duplicates may be related to your own data. Be very aware to go back in and look at your own data and make sure you don't have like companies stacked on top of each other. It's in the data when we find duplicates. I mean, I might find the same thing with my data. If I go in and it does the analysis and it comes up with several companies that are in the same address. They might be in the same mall. I had some data that I had a brewery and a Hannaford Brothers that was so close. It was like right next door. And so the drive time analysis kind of gets a little fussy for that because there really is no time required. But that is what I would say about that. Just look at your data. Actually, often if you go in and actually go to the map. So if you've got a data set in question, you're seeing duplicate records, go to the data and see what's happening there. Make sure, I don't know, zip codes can be wrong. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. You're welcome. Any other questions? I'll give you guys a second. Most of the information that I've put down here about why companies use this product are based on actual companies that have come in and bought the product. It's turned out to be a really nice addition to our offering. And I think we're going to find some more neat features coming into this product line, MapBusinessOnline Pro, because it's just a really great tool for business analysis in general. And it's reasonably priced when you go out and find the other sources out there. In terms of multiple drive routes, MapBusinessOnline for driving vehicle routes really only allows one route at the same time. You can actually go into the routing tool, which is here. Oops. And you can export routes using that tool. When you do that, it gives you the option to export it as a CSV file, or there's a couple of standard formats as GPX files. I believe it lets you do it as an HTML file, and then there's like a teleatlas or whatever it is now file. So there's a variety of files you can export. But MapBusiness Online will only let you create one driving vehicle route at a time. So if that's what we're talking about here, you know, where you go in and pick a point on the map and you put in as a start, and then go in and pick a point on the map and put that in as a finish, and then you would do your route, and you can export that right there: PDF, HTML, CSV, TomTom file, GPX file. The other thing you can do if you're worried about route savings, again, MapBusiness Online is a one route at a time function, but you could, if it was a really important route, save that map as that route and go on and build another map for another route. So it depends upon where you want to kind of spend your life savings for routes and map. Let's look for how we can save the routes. So I don't have any other questions, so I will wrap it up. I just want to thank everybody for coming along and having patience with me for the webinar. You can send feedback to our sales contact information online. Also, I'll get Jeff Ives at spatialtech.com. That's my email, our contact button, or chat with us through MapBusinessOnline.com. Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend.